It's great to be back with you. I want to start today's video by again thanking every single one of you from all over the world for your messages in one way or another, your well wishes to my family and I. It has meant the world. And it's so good to be back in the studio. My producer and I were talking today, we're so excited to get back to doing what we absolutely love to do. There's no way that I could ever repay you. There's no way that I could ever share with you just how much your messages have meant to myself, as well as our entire team at A Fair Recovery, because the encouragement spills over. We love what we do. It's a privilege to get to do what we do. We're certainly not perfect. We've never pretended to be perfect, and I'll never pretend to be perfect. It's humbling to stand on this side of the camera and share my life with you in hopes that it encourages, it uplifts, it exhorts, and at some level you learn from my mistakes. Because if you could avoid some of the things that I have done, I assure you, your recovery, personal and marital, will be much smoother. It'll be much more of a delight to your partner if you can avoid some significant pitfalls. Today's topic is going to be a principle. In fact, you can call it a step that most of us all have to walk through. Have you ever been so frustrated because you couldn't get your spouse or your partner to think or believe or do something that you wanted them to do? Have you ever hit that point, maybe even in parenting, where you've so desperately wanted to get your child to do something or see something and you just couldn't? It's like we can become such control freaks where we're trying to get someone to see something or do something or even experience a reality that we know as cold hard facts, but they're just not there. If you're an unfaithful, it can look like this. You can feel like, man, why won't they forgive me? Or why can't they see that I'm remorseful? Why can't they see how hard I'm working? Or why won't they forgive me? Why won't they re-engage with me mentally, emotionally, or even physically? How can I get them to see what I so desperately want them to see? And it's righteous and it's good and it's pure in its motives. If you're a betrayed, it may look like this. Why can't they do their work? Why can't they be remorseful and empathetic? Why won't they re-engage? Why won't they come to an intensive or do this, read that, experience this, or say this? Why won't they do these things? They are righteous, they are good, they are beneficial, and the frustration that we feel is off the chart. Some of you may have grown up the way I did, but I grew up going to Al-Anon and Alateen, and then I transitioned into AA. At a very young age, I was introduced to alcohol, and I became friends with the 12 steps. Now, I'm not saying the 12 steps are absolutely perfect, and for some people they work extremely well, and for some people it doesn't necessarily gel, and that's totally okay. If you've ever done any 12-step work, the first step is we admitted we were powerless over others, and our lives had become unmanageable. And if you've been in recovery, even from infidelity, long enough, there's a point where you realize, you know what? I cannot make them do what I so desperately want them to do. I've experienced that more times than I can count in all facets of my life. If you're anything like me, you drink a lot of caffeine and you can be a control freak. We think that our reality is the best reality, or we think how we see things and how we see that they should happen should be the way it happens. And so what happens is we start to do all that we can to get our spouse or our partner to see it this way. So much so that we start to stress and worry. We become so out of control that we actually lose touch with ourselves. And that's what happens when we try and control other people, even if it's righteous, right? Even if we think this is what they should do because this would be beneficial for them and beneficial for me. And it becomes so obsessive. We become so obsessed with their actions, our focus is fixated on them and not ourselves. Here's how it plays out. So many times we can fixate on the actions of our spouse or partner, and we get so frustrated. Why won't they do this? This is exactly what they need to do because it will transform our relationship. It'll transform them. It'll transform me. And man, it will just work. And we think that it's the best, and then we try and make that happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then it doesn't happen, and we get so immensely frustrated that there comes a point where it makes us crazy. We start to lose ourselves. We start to get out of whack, and we become so fixated on them that we stop looking at ourselves and our own healing, and as I've said before over a number of different videos, our side of the street. Now, before you get too far down the road, I am not going to just give you this lecture, focus on your side of the street, focus on your side of the street, that's all you can do. I've said that before, we've kind of beat that horse. What I want to talk about today is embracing the powerlessness that we all have. And you might say, well, Samuel, what do we not have control over? What do you mean? Anything that you try and control is going to backfire, especially when it's a human being. As usual, I'm going to give you a couple of caveats because I can in fact hear it now where some people would say, you know what, I'm powerless, you're not going to do your work, why should I do my work? Samuel said that I should embrace powerless and I'm not going to do this course and I'm not going to do my work because I can't change you, so I should just let you be. No, that's called abdicating our responsibility, especially as an unfaithful spouse. That is not embracing powerlessness. Embracing powerlessness looks a little bit more like this. Honey, I can't make this happen. And I'm sorry for trying to control you. You don't need to be controlled by me. You need to be loved by me. And you know what? I can't make you do anything. In fact, if I'm having to make you do it, you're not really doing it anyway. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to focus on me because I have my own healing journey that has to take shape. I've got to work on me. When you're ready, I'm here for you. When you want to do this work, I'm in it with you. I'll do whatever it takes, but I can't make you want to do this. And if you don't want to do this, especially if you're an unfaithful and your betrayed is not there yet, there's a point where you say, look, I can't make you do this. I know that I've injured you, I've wounded you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I know that you're not there yet, and that's okay, because I've got a lot of healing for me to do. There's a big difference there, right? Because we unfaithful have work to do, regardless of whether or not our betrayed is engaging us at that level. We've got to do our own work, and we cannot do their work for them. That's when we fail. That's when we become control freaks. That's when we become obsessive, and we actually drive our partner away rather than bring them in close because we're trying to make them do something that they're not ready to do just yet. If you're a betrayed, it may look a little like this. Honey, I've sensed that you are not all in, and I can't chase you anymore. I'm not going to chase you. I'm going to give you the freedom to not choose me. Because if I have to make you choose me, something's wrong. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually turn the tables and I'm going to choose myself because someone has to choose me. I'm going to choose my own healing. I'm going to choose my own recovery. I'm going to prioritize me because I know that I need help. I know that I need healing. And to think that I don't would be to be in denial. See, that's the thing. Regardless of what side of infidelity you're on, there's a point where embracing powerlessness says, you know what? I have lost a part of myself. I've got to get this part of me back. I'm going to nourish myself. I'm going to care for myself. I'm going to prioritize my own healing and do the work that I need to do to heal because I can't keep doing this, losing more and more of myself to try and make you get it or make you want it when it's just not happening. Before you maybe run with the idea that I'm saying that all of us are codependent or codependents, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we all are codependent and we have to just completely change who we are. No, no, no. Let me tell you what we are not. Number one, we are not defective. This has just been something that we've been doing that probably isn't working. Number two, we are not losers, but you can feel like a loser when you've been trying to get your significant other to want you and pursue you and it's not working. We can feel like, man, I'm unwantable. I'm undesirable. Maybe there's no hope for me, and that is not true at all. Number three is we are not failures. If you're an unfaithful, You may have failed morally and made some very bad choices. You could even be betrayed and make some bad choices in how you've dealt with the pain and the trauma of infidelity. But you, make no mistake, are not a failure. You may have just made some bad decisions. Next on my list is this fact that is just the truth. You are not unhealable. Regardless of how much damage you've done to yourself, regardless of how much of you've felt like you've lost throughout this muddy process, you are not unhealable. You are not without hope. You are not without the opportunity to find personal restoration. I can assure you, I have been such a control freak. I have wrestled with this for decades, and I have experienced an immense amount of freedom. It's come with a price. It's come with agony. It's come with trial and error. It's come with a lot of help. But I can assure you, you are not unhealable. So I've said what we are not. Now let me tell you what we are. Number one is we are on a redemptive, restorative journey where we have not figured it all out, where we have not been perfect, but we're not done. It's not over. You are not without hope. You are a survivor. You have absolutely survived some of the worst days of agony, of isolation, of self-hatred, of self-shame, of just hopelessness and despair. You are on a journey of redemption and restoration. You have survived the worst days you've ever experienced thus far. You can keep going. Number two, and this is a tough one, and it might hit you at the kind of fabric of your being, is that we are healing a lot of pain, a lot of habits and patterns that we learned as a child. We are maybe even replicating some things that we saw in our parental figures, or maybe some things that we did not see in our parental figures. It's a journey of healing. It's a journey of personal restoration that can be agonizing, but we are healing. We went through some tough things, and you know what that was like. You understand it. You felt it. But I have to tell you, if I can heal from some things that were just absolutely dark, if I can heal from some things that followed me around for years, in fact, for decades, I just want to meet you right where you're at and tell you, you can absolutely find healing. See, when we try and be control freaks, we think that we don't have choices, but we do have choices. If you're listening to me right now, you have a choice. You have a choice in how you heal. You have a choice in what actions you take to find your own healing and prioritize your own well-being. Finally, and this might be most important, you're prioritizing your own self-care. And I think for a healthy recovery, we all have to do that. We can't keep fixating on what the other person is doing. There comes a time where we say, look, I am powerless over them, but I'm not powerless over me. I'm not powerless over how I respond. I'm not powerless over the choices that I make. I'm not powerless over the prioritization of my own emotions and my own needs and my own struggles. I don't have to make everything about them. I can give them the freedom to work on them while I work on me. Maybe you have to confront yourself, which I've had to do more times than I would like to admit. Maybe you have to nurture yourself, which doesn't come easy for me, but I've learned how to do it, and it's changed my life. And I'm not going to get emotional about it, but I can tell you my bent is to shame myself, not just for my previous infidelity, but for my childhood and some things that I did that I'm not proud of. But I've learned how to nourish. I've learned how to nurture myself. I've learned how to sit myself down and say, hold on. Let's look at the truth of some things. It's time for you to stop beating yourself up, because that can be used as an excuse, Samuel. It's time to love yourself and care for yourself, to set yourself free, to start to do your own work, to get healthy for everybody else in your life. My friend, my hope, my plea, for those of you that come from faith, my prayer for you is that today you say, it's time for me to nurture myself. And nurturing has many different faces. It might be the face of compassion. It might be the face of, hey, what we're doing isn't working. It's time to shift. I hope that today you can find the strength to keep going. I hope that I have helped you in your journey today. I hope that you can find the courage to take the pressure off the other person and start to care, to start to love, to start to prioritize you.